Today's lesson 7 of advanced server-side scripting. So I added to my project the work that you guys did last week at the end of class, where you were working on, you created a country model, country controller, and a view. And the group that was at the back had shared, they sort of had all this code working. A lot of groups had it either mostly working or partly working. And is it okay if I share this repository in case anybody else wants? I think I meant to do this already on Blackboard, but I don't know that I did. So I'll share the link in case your group didn't quite finish and you want to reference that code or download any of those files. I'll show you which files I added to mine. That's not the right link. Whoops, sorry. So from this repository, there are a few files I added. I added the country model to my models folder. I added the countries controller to my controllers folder. I did take out the edit and update edit methods because we don't really need them. Under views, I added a countries folder and I just added my add.hbs. And then in app.js, I added a link to the controller, as well as mapped any requests that start with countries to use this controller. I mean, most of you did this stuff last week, but some of you didn't have it quite finished. And then I also changed the index controller to comment out our original code where we had hard-coded in a list of countries, and we replaced that list with the actual country list that came from our database. So if I run the app, the other thing I need to do in my index controller is reference mongoose and my country model. I have no countries in my database, so I couldn't start to add them back in. So we're populating this list now from based on the countries collection in our database, rather than through our hard-coded list. So most of the groups had either gotten this working or almost had it working. So if you didn't have it, you can refer to that code that Andy's group shared with us. So the other thing that we should probably do is now modify our original add form here so that rather than the countries being a text box, the country is a select box where we're writing a query and filling that select box using our countries collection. So if we open up our add.hbs, I want to replace this input tag with a select tag, and then we can use a loop to populate. So now in here we could use a loop to show our countries. The code for this is going to be similar to the loop we're already using about view. In fact, it'll be exactly the same, except instead of li tags, we'll use option tags. So we'll use a handlebars each tag. So now we'll get a drop-down list instead. If we go and try this out in our browser now, we're getting an empty drop-down. So we get no errors, but my drop-down is empty right now. So I'll need to do one more thing in order to fill this drop-down. The view is fine. Why is it empty? Right, in the controller, the foods controller add method, we'll now need to pass this list, query the database using the country model, and pass this list to the view. So we've just added this code. I've replaced the input. Line 10 was a regular input tag. So I've replaced the input with a select. I'll leave this up here for a minute, and then we'll need to go back to the controller, as Ryan said, and add the query that passes the data to the view so that list is not empty, but has a list of our countries from MongoDB. So that's going to be in the foods controller, because this is the foods add view. So in my foods controller, here's the method that's being called. It's really simple right now. All we're doing is loading the view. So we now need to connect to our country model, use the country model to fetch the list of countries first. We've already linked to our food model. but now we need the country model in order to be able to connect to the country collection. So our food controller has both these references because it's actually going to interact with both collections in the database. So that's really neat. This is new. Now we want to get the list of countries. Drop down. So if this fails, we'll log it. And then we'll move our render statement inside. So if we have no error from our query, so first get the list of countries. If that query works and we get data back, load the view and pass the data to the view. So now when we reload it, our drop-down list has data in it. So if we want to add food from a different country, we first have to go to our country list, add that, and then come back here and the drop-down will be populated. So again, we need the reference at the top to the country model so we can use it to get the list of countries for our drop-down list. The other thing we could look at doing, we won't do right now, but we might want to sort this list right now as they're just the countries are selected in the order that we put them into MongoDB. So if I add a new country, it just goes to the bottom of the list. It's not sorted alphabetically, which isn't great. As this list gets long, it'll be difficult to find what we need. So we can look at doing that as well. Okay, how are we for time? Right, I think we will maybe take a break a bit early rather than start talking about Passport for 5 minutes and take a break. Let's take a break first. Come back when you're fed, caffeinated, hydrated, nicotine, whatever you need. Okay? We'll come back in 10 minutes.